So thanks for coming back. We took a little break there, and now we're going to jump into talking about EG innovations and how you can leverage them to monitor not only your on-prem assets, but your cloud assets, and kind of living in this whole multi-cloud digital workspace world. Now, on the phone with me today, I got two guests, but before we do, I'm just going to say, I want to do a couple quick polls before we jump in. Like you guys know, I love to do polls, and then we're going to go into an overview and demo of EG innovations. All right, so on the phone, I got myself. You guys already know who I am, Pete Downing, the CMO, CTO of XenTegra. And with me, I got John and Nanda. So John, can you just give yourself a quick intro?
Sure. I'm a Director of Customer Success at EG Innovations. I'm based in New Jersey, and very pleased to be here, Pete.
Cool. Thanks for joining. And are you a Jets fan?
Actually, I'm a Giant fan, so don't hold that against me.
All right. And then Nanda, can you give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure, Pete. Hey, this is Nanda. I'm the Director of Solutions Engineering, managing the West Coast. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining this webinar. Appreciate it.
Cool. All right. And thanks for joining, too. I know it's a little early for you. All right. So a couple of polls before we jump into letting John and Nanda do their thing. So, again, I can't see who's answering it. And, so don't be afraid to answer. The first question, very fully understand my workloads and can easily definitely take an answer. And hopefully we can get full audience participation. And I'll share it in a second. So a couple more seconds, folks. All right, going once, going twice, and 3 times. So, a lot of folks say no, and that's probably the right answer. And that's where I think you're going to see that EG can definitely help. And that's some of the issues I see when I talk about Azure in general and cloud in general is, hey, I got to understand what my workloads are. And then another kind of loaded question. Cost is a big factor when considering moving to cloud. And we'll let this go for a couple seconds. And going once, going twice, and 3 times. So we got a lot of folks that say yes. And I'll talk a little. The workloads as you move to cloud. All right, and the final question. I currently own a monitoring solution today. And I got a couple of the usual people on there. Oh, we got a couple of EG customers on the phone, so thanks. We'll let this go. And again, I can't see who's answering, so don't be afraid to answer. And while John's talking, I'm going to try to fix my mic, so bear with me. All right, going once, going twice, going 3 times, and I'm going to share it. So we got a good mix, and one of the things you'll see is if you think Citrix Director is monitoring, we can cover a little bit about that today, but yeah, it's not I wouldn't call it full end-to-end monitoring, and that's maybe something you guys can cover a little bit, Nanda and John as well. All right, so those are the polls, and what I'm going to do is cut it over to John to give a quick overview, and then Nanda is going to take us through the technical aspects. So make sure I pass it to the right, John, because there's 2 now. All right, John. So I think you should have got it.
All right, so let me know when you see the guy drawing on the beach.
Yep, we got it.
All right, so thanks for having us, Pete. We really appreciate our partnership with XenTegra, and welcome everyone. I just want to, again, we've already talked. Pete, I think, did a great job this morning talking about some of this. So some of this is for my own benefit. Kind of just a quick reality check. When we talk about cloud services, we can talk about the different deployment models, and we touched on this earlier: IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, and now desktop as a service as well. And what's really attractive about desktop as a service now is basically VDI delivered as a cloud service and includes the entire VDI ecosystems, and you can move it with your data. But at the end of the day, when we say the multi-cloud workspace, we're really talking about a mix of private, hybrid, and public cloud resources. And EG Innovations has been for well over a decade totally focused on performance monitoring. And these kinds of architectures can present some significant performance management challenges. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to keep the commercial as briefly as possible. I want you to know who we are and what we do, and then I want to turn it over to Nanda to give you a quick demo and show you some of the things that we do, and allow some time for some questions. If you have questions along the way, I'm going to rely on Pete and Nanda to keep an eye on the questions panel. By all means, ask them, and we'll be sure and leave time to do some Q&A. So fundamentally, what EG does is we take measurements at every layer of every component of an end-to-end digital business service. Through machine learning, we learn the norms of all measurements that we collect. And really the heart of the architecture has always been a patented analytics that's based on data flows and dependencies, and can automatically isolate which layer of which component is the source of a performance issue. Now today we do this across any cloud deployment model, public, private, or hybrid, and from code to bare metal, specifically for Java and .NET applications. So our time is somewhat limited. We won't be able to show you the total breadth and depth of the solution, but I know people like two things. They like free and they like new. So I'm going to focus on, I'm going to ask Nanda to show you a little bit about our Enterprise Express Logon Simulator for Citrix. That's available free as a web service right from EG. And there is a new offering called EG Enterprise Cloud Solutions for Citrix. That's a software as a service, a cloud-based service. And we want to give you a sneak peek at that as well. But what's important to understand is that the fundamental architecture can provide you end-to-end digital performance analytics, really for any size customer or environment. We've also had a long history with Citrix. We've been a Citrix Ready partner for more than a decade. We've been the exclusive performance monitoring solution for Synergy and Summit since 2014. And again, one of the key strengths that we have is the ability to automatically isolate performance issues across both Citrix and non-Citrix components. We were the first native performance monitoring solution for Citrix Cloud. We've got out-of-the-box capabilities for AWS and Azure. We've had that for some time now as well. So I'm going to very quickly go through some of the things that we've already touched on. So I'm going to go through this quickly. If you want me to slow down or back up, I'm happy to do that. But I think we've already, Pete's already covered this pretty well. The Citrix deployment model, has a resource and a control plane, and typically they've been on premise, maybe in a private cloud environment. That's the typical scenario that we see, and that's gradually changing. Citrix Cloud is really a hybrid cloud deployment model. Citrix manages the delivery controller, director, and other components, and then the customer needs to manage the resource planes and app servers and so on. And we talked about this earlier. Now, Citrix Cloud on Azure really could mean a number of different things. You could have a multi-cloud scenario where you use Azure maybe in an infrastructure as a service deployment model, maybe to host some of your resource plane components, and maybe Citrix Cloud to manage the control plane. Or maybe you subscribe to Windows Virtual Desktop and deliver. So there's a lot of different configuration options. But at the end of the day, in any of these scenarios, there are going to be a lot of different digital business services being delivered, and these are almost always going to include many heterogeneous components, multi-vendor devices, and suppliers. And this is kind of an IT view of the digital workspace. Of course, a customer sees things a little bit differently, right? Users are going to want to A, log on and off throughout the day. B, they're going to want to run their desktop applications. And C, they might want to access other applications as well. Some of these might be cloud native, and others might be traditional data center applications. So all IT is likely to hear from a user is my application slow, and this is where EG Innovations comes in. So there are really 4 best practices associated with Citrix Cloud monitoring or multi-cloud monitoring. While some of the performance monitoring or some of the management of the control plane components are done for you by Citrix, it doesn't necessarily make performance monitoring any easier. So in any of these kind of hybrid or multi-cloud deployment models, performance monitoring really becomes really important, especially across the entire migration scenario before, during, and after migration to the cloud. So one of the poll questions was, do we understand our workloads? And that's been a challenge for customers, particularly as their digital services have become more and more heterogeneous. So we believe that you need to, first of all, use both synthetic and real user experience and measure all aspects of the end user experience. You need to be able to have visibility across every layer and every tier, particularly of the Citrix and the supporting infrastructure. And you need to have end-to-end performance correlation, and this kind of analytics is very important and really drives the cost of ownership of any monitoring solution. And finally, you need to be able to do more than monitor synthetic and real user experience. You need to be able to do analytics so you can forecast and do some right sizing and optimization as business needs change and things change. So again, I wanted to keep my introduction to a minimum. We will have some time to do some Q&A, and I have some wrap-up slides after Nanda's demo. So with that, Nanda, if you are there, I'd like to pass the ball to you so you can go through the demo.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely, John.
Nanda, I just passed you the presenter rights, so cool. And again, if there's any questions, folks, please definitely put them in the Q&A dialogue. And for this segment, if you want to go live, I can do it at the end because I capture the Q&A as part of the recording as well. So.
All right. Thank you so much, Pete. Once again, thanks for providing this opportunity. Hey, XenTegra is great. John, can you hear me? You guys can see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
All right. Wonderful. All right. Hey, thanks, John. So, guys, I'm going to go over, the cloud monitoring quickly, and then we will go ahead and cover the new offering, the SaaS solution as well. Okay. So, speaking of which, like Pete mentioned, our goal is always end-to-end, understanding the complete visibility of what is going on in the infrastructure, right? So, what you guys are seeing in front of the screen, let me put it in a much simpler way. So the solution supports your cloud, whether it's a Citrix Cloud or Microsoft Azure, and it also covers all your resource plane and control plane, which is key. So if the demo is going to resonate to that, if you notice right here, your resource plane, which is going to be the VDAs on the Xen app, Xen desktop, it's got 100% coverage on the monitoring side, and then Active Directory and the control plane, Microsoft SQL Server, the delivery controller, and all that, the Citrix Cloud connector. So the point is simple. What EG provides out of the box is a complete, monitoring for each and every tier you guys are going to run in the infrastructure. Now, having said that, let's quickly take a look at how this hand-to-hand view is going to be, coming up on the screen for you guys, and how the correlation works, and how quickly you can understand what's going on. My point is, I'm going to cover the Microsoft Azure monitoring, and also I'm going to go over the Citrix Cloud monitoring, and then end-to-end monitoring in this, then switch it over to the, our new offering, SaaS monitoring. Make sense? So first thing I wanted to show you guys is what we do is we don't monitor those Microsoft Azure or cloud or the control plane and resource plane as individual components, which is basically silo-based monitoring. We don't really do that. What we provide is to the customers a value. Out of the box, the customer can quickly understand what is going on in their Citrix Cloud and the Microsoft Azure, because the way it works is when a user complains, hey, we got an application access slow in the cloud. Now, the first point which comes to mind is like where that problem is coming up, right? So this is the typical view you get to understand from an end-to-end perspective what is really causing an issue and where the problems are, okay? So if you notice here, we use a simple color coding. More the red, critical the problems, orange, less critical, the yellow ones are the proactive ones. So what we are seeing here is stating that Citrix is having an issue, but at the same time, if you notice closely, none of these components are red in color. The real problem or the root cause is happening in the virtualization stack, not on the Citrix. Citrix is having an effect, and the virtualization is where the real problem is. So we provide this level of visibility without doing a lot of configuration and writing rules or creating algorithms. So we keep it simple as much as possible. One of the virtual server running in this virtualization stack taking up the resources causing an issue, and it takes few minutes to get to this level of details with EG, and that's our ability to help the customer to quickly understand what is going on. Now, I'm going to switch gears here. Okay, this virtual server is having an issue, and that is the whole reason why Citrix is having an impact. Okay, and this is an end-to-end view. Now, talking about the Microsoft Azure and then the Citrix Cloud, let me walk you through, guys, a couple of quick scenarios on that. So there is a Citrix Cloud Connector component, Citrix Cloud Delivery Controller component. So all these are out of the box supported. And if you notice it, what EEG does is you can go deep into each and every one of these components, so which allows you to see how things are performing. In general, if it is green, that means it's a good state. I don't have to worry about this too much. So having said that, these server types, the cloud and the delivery controller on the cloud, it's all good. Now, if you notice that Microsoft Azure is having a proactive issue there. So I would like to show you guys how this is going to help you by monitoring the Azure cloud or Citrix Cloud. So what it does is essentially it provides you rich amount of data, but the point is it's not about the data, it's the information. How quickly I can see what is going on in the Azure, right? So for us, that's key. So if you notice it, most of the metrics, majority of the metrics, what we are collecting here, it's all green in color, and including the compute and essentially the storage, and all these are good. Now, what is really going on with an Azure is basically all these metrics are green, but where we are seeing a proactive issue with the activity details, so there's a user who got deleted in the cloud service. So it's actually pointing out, hey, this is only a proactive issue. You guys don't have to panic, press the panic button right there. But this is exactly what you would like to see in terms of how the billing is performing in the Azure. So you can see the billing details. So this is your total cost, and the number of resource, the used resource groups, and the used resources. You can further go into all these, details by clicking on the magnifying glass. That brings in more details about what is really running in the Azure, what's taking up, the resource in there. You understand what I'm saying? So on the left side, what you are seeing as a resource name, those are all the different servers running in the Azure. Okay. Now, what if suppose we got all these different services running in the Azure, and it's taking up resource like DTUs. We want to see how many DTUs are currently in use. So these are basically the key metrics to understand how your cloud is performing. Okay, so it gives you all these details in the Microsoft Azure. Now, what makes it much easier to understand the performance is if it is all green, I don't have to worry about all those metrics. Okay, wherever the colors are like yellow, orange, or red, that should be the focus. and you can see how rich we can go deep into this Microsoft Azure and provide you all the details. And it's a very same approach we take with the Citrix Cloud as well. As a matter of fact, considering the time, I'm going to switch over to the Logon Simulation, then our cloud offering. Guys, if you want to get a full-fledged demo or detailed understanding of how we monitor the Microsoft Azure and the rest of the Citrix Cloud components I showed you on the screen, we'll be very happy to set up a demo with you guys. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and show you the Logon simulation quick.
Yeah, so Nandan, a couple of questions before you do that. So the first question came in from Claudia. So I noticed there was only mention of PVS. Do you guys monitor MCS as well? So you guys, I think John, you mentioned PVS.
Pete, we do monitor the MCS as well.
Okay, cool. And then Scott asked a good question. Does EG only monitor Citrix services running in the cloud? Can this solution be used 100% for 100% on-prem deployment? And I know the answer is yes. It can do both cloud and on-prem. So
you saved me there, Pete. Yeah, you're right. Hey, those are good questions, guys. Keep it coming. Okay. So the solution, what we are seeing, is compatible with cloud, and it's also compatible with on-premise applications running in your infrastructure. So it gives you that the view which you're looking for. You don't need 3 or 4 different consoles to get this one comprehensive view. So EG provides you this view where you can see all your cloud services and your on-premise infrastructure components, and hybrid cloud as well. So essentially you'll get all this view bundled into the same solution. All right, let me go over the Logon simulation. I've seen a lot of use cases where this is very useful, and it's, of course, like John said, it's free. You guys can really go into our website and sign up for this service, and it's no strings attached to this. Trust us, and it's completely free, and all you guys need to do is just go ahead and try to, download it and run it. And essentially the functionality of this feature is simple. Okay, rather than we have these real users coming into the cloud service or the Citrix infrastructure and then complaining about the slowness, complaining about the disconnects, complaining about the applications issues, we don't really want to use them as our early warning system, right? Nobody else. In the customer interface, I've seen it like nobody wants to have the customer calling them and telling them, hey, there are issues happening in the infrastructure. Instead, they would like to be more proactive. So think about, 24/7, the Logon simulation, is going to run as if the real user connecting and launching an application and provides you the visibility. So even before the real user connects and sees an issue, I can be proactive what is going on with the old transaction. So as a matter of fact, you can see on the left side, we got a bunch of applications published on the Citrix or cloud service. So when the user is connecting and launching it, right, say for an instance, Outlook. I've seen most of the complaints coming from the Outlook when customer launches the Outlook there. A email program is slow and I have no clue. But I got complaints from a lot of users. So can I be proactive? Can I see what's going on in that? Yes, absolutely. That's where the Logon simulation works. And the free Logon simulation allows you to set up 3 applications. It's up to you. You guys have choice there. You guys can have, applications or desktops to test for it. Now, when Outlook is slow, generally the point is they start blaming Citrix. It's a Citrix slow, and that's why I couldn't really get connected to the Outlook. Now, what I'm trying to show you is whether it's Outlook or Epic or Cerner or any application running on the infrastructure, if it's slow, I can give you like a black box testing 24/7, the metrics on it stating what is causing the slow. To keep it simple, okay, this is completely not an issue with the Citrix, where you can see how much time for the client processing it takes. It's less than a second. And when the user is connecting to the storefront URL to access this published Outlook, it takes about 15 seconds. But where it is taking most of its time is the logon process, the authentication in the Active Directory server. It's taking about 45 seconds right there to authenticate its credential, the user credential, CTX user. So now what we can understand from this logon simulation is, hey, the logon process is the one which is taking up time, but your application launch is not the one which is taking up time. Because if you notice it, it's very clearly represented. On the left side, it talks about the logon process, and on the right side, it talks about the application launch, where your application launch outlook is, from an enumeration perspective, it's taking about 0.24 seconds, and the HTX session establishment is about 5 seconds, and your application launch is, the application itself is launching in 4 seconds. So majority of the time is spent in the authentication process. All right, this is great. What if suppose my Active Directory is absolutely working great, and I don't see any slowness or lag in the authentication process. And if it's an application issue which is causing a problem and it's slow. So if you notice in this scenario, it's not the authentication. Okay, it's the application launch itself, a help desk tool, which is taking up 77 seconds, slowing down the launch for the user to connect and create tickets, right? Or to resolve problem and update the ticket. So this is exactly what we do. We monitor the application launch through Citrix or through virtual desktop, and we can give you this detailed breakdown. So this is our logon piece. Okay. All right. I'm going to switch over. I'm always excited when it comes to our SaaS. The reason is this is a new offering, and one of the challenge with the monitoring is, if you talk about an end-to-end monitoring, okay, what it does is basically we support 180 plus applications. So it is like, hey, so I need a comprehensive view of everything, and I need correlation, I need everything. So that's our enterprise solution there. But if your focus is like user experience, whether it's a Citrix Cloud or on-premise Citrix users or virtual desktop users, I would like to have an easy version of the software where it actually provides the user experience very quick, and this is key. This is an easy version of our EG where it minimizes the lot of things you got to do on the infrastructure to get the monitoring up and running. Okay, you don't need a management console, you don't need a database, so a lot of that is completely taken care with this SaaS offering. So you don't have to even configure the servers or applications to be monitored. It's all automatically done through our client-side installer. We call it as a CSI. So I will give you a quick walkthrough on the demo. So what you are seeing here on the screen is the user experience, okay, which is key in the Citrix world or in the virtualization world. Most of the compliance, if you notice it, comes from the users. They talk about the slowness, disconnects, logon issues. So we wanted to address that very quickly. So this is the dashboard view. You will get it. The moment you get the SaaS offering registered and you download the client-side installer and it discovers your infrastructure and starts the monitoring, this is the dashboard you will see. Now, what do we do with this user experience panel? It's a great question. I will explain to you guys in a very quick way. So what we are seeing here is three widgets. The first one is talking about the KPI. Hey, what is the real-time metric we are collecting, and what is the trend? One of the biggest challenges I've seen with Citrix customers or administrators are like, okay, can I see the trend very quick rather than going over to the reporter or to the historical data and analyzing what's going on, for a week or for a month. So we want to bring that very quick into the same widget. So that's where you're seeing both the real-time metrics and for the past 6 hours, what's the trend? So if you see a lot of deviation in the trend, for an instance, active sessions 55, and you see a lot of drop in that trend, you can for sure know that, hey, this particular form is having issues and users are getting disconnected very quick. Okay. Now this active sessions is one metric, and you can see the latency, average latency of users connecting to Citrix, and their logon duration. So these are the three critical metrics which allows you to understand how your Citrix form is performing or how your virtualization is performing. Now, the next panel is the user experience issues. So in the user experience issues, what you're seeing is you're seeing user with high latency. And out of 55 sessions, 53 sessions are healthy sessions, which talks about that, hey, this customer, based on the industry standard, they got a 97% in a good state. And this is what your user experience index is. So if this is 97%, that's good. But if it is degraded, if it is less than 90%, you got to see what is going on in the infrastructure. Okay. So what you're seeing is industry as such is 95%, and this customer is having 97%, which is great. Now, how can I go understand what's going on in the user experience, right? Whether it's a Citrix Cloud or Microsoft Azure or any cloud service the users are connecting to. So you can see right here, there is a feature which allows you to understand how to improve the things on the user experience. So you can just click on it. It gives you the list of alerts coming up on the user experience side, what is impacting the user experience, what is impacting the infrastructure performance, which allows you to understand in a very quick way where I need to focus more, what is going on with the user experience. Before I go further into all these user impacting issues, I wanted to take a step back and I wanted to show you guys. So you can also see the logon duration and you can see the active sessions. So you will be able to go ahead and click on each one of them, and it can give you the details, which are all the users having a slow logons in the infrastructure and who are having issues with. So this allows you to see further down into the information. Like I want to just go over this quick so we can move on to other screens. So it helps you to see what is the user, profile load time, and see every aspect of user experience is covered in this demo. That is key. Whether you're talking about the logon analysis, or you're talking about the latency analysis, or you're talking about the load analysis, how many active sessions are coming up, every single one of those metrics, you can click on it. It allows you to go deep into the metric. It allows you to see what's going on within the metric. That's key. So here you go. This is really very important for you guys to see, hey, this user is having a slow logon, Melissa. And if you notice it, it gives you a complete visibility from the user, session initiating and reaching the workload on the other side. So this user is connecting to the Citrix XenApp Server A11, and mostly if you notice it, the logon process is taking up 215 seconds, and you can see where that is coming from and how much time it is taking up on the server side to access the applications for this user. It will also give you the breakdown of where most of the time is spent, and it will also tell you how much latency is coming from the Citrix. So from Citrix, we can all see it is only 36 milliseconds. Okay, but what we are seeing on the other end, why the user logon is slow, it's coming from the interactive session and the rest of the metrics there, and that takes about 215 seconds. So this user is experiencing a slow logon right now. Okay. And it gives you the list of applications, what the user is accessing and all that good stuff. What if suppose I wanted to go ahead and take a look at from a cloud perspective, right? Like John mentioned, there is a control layer and there is a resource layer. Think about it, this demo resonates to that. So we got an access layer covered. If this is 100%, you can be very free thinking, okay, so the user's accessing to the Citrix, it's all good. It's 100% great. I don't have to worry about it, right? And you can see that we got 13 requests coming into the storefront and the response time on it. As long as there are no disconnected users, as long as the users are able to connect, the access layer is good. We are fine with that. Then comes the control layer, where it talks about the controller, how much time it is taking to broker a session and how many sessions are there. As long as it's 100%, I'm good with the control tier or the control layer. And then comes the resource layer. So this gives you a complete visibility of both the control layer and the resource, or rather control plane and the resource plane in the cloud, to understand how things are working. Okay. So this is a very simple setup, and this is easy to configure. And like I said, you guys don't have to do much of the configuration. So the client-side installer will take care of all that. So think about it in a way that, hey, I have Citrix and virtualization. I want to make use of for the cloud. I want to make use of something which can quickly give the value to me, and this will be the best bet for getting the value very quick without doing a lot of configuration. Okay.
Cool.
Having said that, I'm going to give it to John for the next steps.
So Nanda, quick, before we jump into the close, a couple of good questions came in. So the first question came from Vincent. I think, Vincent, we kind of answered this a little bit when you brought up the cool visualization from end to end, but I'll throw the question out there and maybe you can bring up the visualization again. Hey, does EG monitor end-to-end ICA traffic, like which gateway pop it hits? Also, does EG monitor the traffic on Citrix Cloud? So I think you kind of covered it a little bit when you had that end-to-end kind of architectural diagram of the user logon, and you could see the pipe and where the login speed, the duration, the latency, and but I guess the question is, what else can you do around like Citrix Cloud, for example? If let's say I was running, instead of using Storefront, I'm using Workspace. Can you see that?
Yeah. So essentially, this demonstration is not customized, right? So I'm actually going through the demonstration what we have in place. So you can have the workspace there instead of storefront, but this pipe symbol, like, the flow, what you're seeing there is what you're going to see about, different hops and how much time it is taking up when the user is connecting to your Citrix Cloud. Yes, Pete. Cool.
Yeah, I love this. This is one of my favorite parts of the product. So, all right, Kevin asked a good question. So, and maybe John, you can chime in as well. The fun question of around pricing. So is EG's pricing similar to Control Up? And if we got a sidebar this with Kevin, we can. But then he asked an interesting question. Are there any type of trade up programs if, let's say, they are a Control Up customer and they're looking to move to EG?
And okay. I was trying to. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, it is designed. We've had feedback from the lower end of the marketplace about pricing, and so this is designed to address that. So from a competitive perspective, we will be competitive with products like Control Up. I can't answer any trade-in programs. I would have to defer to Tom Hresko, our VP of Sales, but it's a good idea and it's perhaps something we should think about.
Yeah, and Tom, if you want to chime in, feel free, and I'll ask the other question while you're thinking about that. So Nazir asked actually a good question. I really like we can talk all day, Nazir, on comparisons, and if you want to deep dive, just reach out. I'll set up some time with you. I can tell you, where EG sits in the market, where they excel versus some of their friendly competition out there. But he does ask a good question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys have an agentless piece. So he asked, does there need to be an agent on every server? And I think you have agent and agent, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct, Pete. See, Pete, like John mentioned, our goal is to, reach the customer base where they want to get things done much easier and quicker and get the value most out of the monitoring solution. So that's essentially our target on this. And obviously, we support both agent-based and agentless monitoring approach. We call it as a client-side installer there. So where it requires an agent or the software to be installed, it takes care of it. Where it can remotely connect and get the metrics out of it, it takes care of it. So absolutely, it's built in. We support both.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, and that was when I was I gotta get this piece running in my lab, but I have your on-prem running in my lab, and that was my favorite part of the product, that I didn't have to put an agent on everything. So Nazir, hopefully that answered your question. And again, if you want to kind of talk, the comparisons, definitely reach out. We can sidebar on that. All right. If there's any other questions, definitely put them into the chat. And Tom, if you have any comments on the trade up, feel free to chime in now. John, I'm going to pass presenter over to you so you can do a final wrap up. And,
okay.
Tom, I don't know if you have any inputs as well. And welcome, by the way.
Sure.
All right. So John, if you want to jump into your wrap up.
Yep. I'll wrap it up. Thanks, cool. Pete. Look, fundamentally, as I said at the beginning, the fundamental architecture collects measurements at every layer of every component, end-to-end, regardless, public, private, or hybrid. So when you think about that and you think about migrating to the cloud, you've got baselining that you need to do before you migrate to understand your workloads, your existing applications. We can do that. During the migration, we can baseline, and after the migration, we can baseline. What's unique about the architecture is it has a universal agent or data collector, so you can reuse licenses. You could move a license from an on-prem to the cloud, for example. So you can also license it by term. So if you think you're going to migrate over the next year, you can get a 1-year term, do comprehensive baselining over that 1 year, so before and during. And if you need to dial down monitoring as you complete your migration to the cloud, you have the flexibility to do that. So you don't get dead-ended anywhere is the bottom line. You have complete visibility top to bottom and end to end, regardless of what cloud deployment model you have. The other thing is we didn't really go through the entire product, but just like anything else, you can personalize the user views. So you can have views by different roles as needed, as well as role-based dashboards and report. And we just didn't have time to go through all of those. So our feeling is that built-in Citrix tools are good, but they're really not enough for cloud monitoring, particularly multi-cloud monitoring. You really need a single pane, a single visibility. Trying to do this and correlate information using multiple tools is extremely difficult. And managing performance is business critical today. It's essential for being competitive in the digital age. And you also need to make sure that you manage the supporting infrastructure as well as the Citrix components. And I already mentioned that you really need to look at before, during, and after, so I won't beat that to death. But so our feeling is, to be a performance hero, you really need total performance visibility, and that's what we've been on that mission for well over a decade. So we've got a lot of experience in managing the performance of digital business services. So if there's any other additional questions, I did put the links on the screen. The bottom link is to the free Logon simulator, and the top link is if you wanted a free trial of the enterprise cloud solutions for Citrix. So with that, I'll open it up for any final questions, and Pete will thank everyone and pass the ball back to you.
Yeah. So one other question, I missed it, and I apologize. It was from Ganesh. Hopefully I said your name right. Nanda, when you showed the login process, like monitoring login, his question is there a easy way to see where the experience is, and then can you tell what process? And I think you showed it from a latency point of view. Well, let's say hypothetically it was a process that's causing logon or GPO. Would you be able to see that?
Yes. Absolutely, yes, Pete. Like I said, since we don't have much time to go into a full-fledged demo, but we have a scenario where we can also show which GPU, for an instance, GPU processing like Internet Explorer binding or the folder redirection or drive maps, whatever the GPU process, it's taking up time. We can absolutely show that, and we can help the customer to know. We have done that in the past with a customer where they had, the policies, which took a very long time to have this logon process completed for the users. We identified the group policy, which was taking up time, and they were able to optimize it. So, answer to the question, yes, we can absolutely identify the group policies, which takes up the duration.
All right, so really quick, I'm going to pass myself presenter. I have the screen up. I did share the link, by the way, with everybody on how to get the cloud demo. So definitely, if you click on that, put your information in, and I think John or Nanda, if they mention you guys, might fast track it a little bit. So they might have to sit through a little deeper demo if interested, but definitely check it out. Let's see, make presenter and share my screen. So hopefully you guys can see it, but here's the page you can go to get a free tool, the free monitoring. And I shared that link. So if there's any final questions, let me know. And Alex, I saw your question. You said, how is the product payment system? Can you please expand on that, please? Not sure I follow your question. Are you asking, can it monitor payment systems, or how do you pay for the product? Okay, all right. Cool, all right. So again, I want to thank my friends at EG for joining. John and Nanda took a lot of time out of their day today to do this. I appreciate it, and I'm excited by what I saw. Hopefully, you guys are, and hopefully, you found this a nice little breakup of the day before we dive more into Azure and Citrix Cloud. So, John, Nanda, and Tom, thanks for jumping on and joining me today for an hour, and look forward to doing more with you guys.
Thanks, Pete, and thank everybody.
Likewise, Pete. Thank you so much. We're looking forward to work with you more as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.